Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Vision of Escaflowne Retrospective. Seeing as that we've already looked at the plot and setting of the series, it's time we start diving into some of the characters. And for this task, we're going to start with the character who seems to have the least amount of character. That is, the least amount of humanity. He is well written. And that is Emperor Dornkirk. To start though, we must briefly look over Dornkirk's place in the story. Dornkirk first appears in episode 2 in a little virtual meeting he has with the Lords Folken and Dillandau. While he only says a few words in this meeting, it does a good job of kind of setting him up as a distant and mysterious overseer who instructs Lord Folken to carry out his agenda, which we gradually piece together over time. We learn that his agenda is to reawaken the power of Atlantis, that is the power to turn thoughts into power, and use it to reshape fate. To do so, Dornkirk must power up his destiny alteration machine, and this requires the neutralization of the dragon, that is Von and Escaflowne, obtaining the power spot present in the Duchy of Feld, and later the abilities of Hitomi. Through later flashbacks about Alan's father, we also learn that Dornkirk's real name is Isaac, and that he traveled with Alan's father for a while. The two never seem that close, although Dornkirk does share his real name, that is Isaac, and that he's actually from Earth. On a quick side note, it's unconfirmed, but heavily implied throughout the series, that Dornkirk is actually the real-life scientist of Isaac Newton, who did get up to some occult activities later in his life. We don't actually meet Emperor Dornkirk though in person until about the halfway point in the series, when Alan, Von, and Hitomi get teleported to the capital of the Zybok Empire. It is here that Dornkirk finally gives us his backstory and spells out his goals. Dornkirk was originally a scientist from Earth, who in addition to his scientific studies also carried out studies on the nature of destiny. In his mind, destiny itself was a natural force that could be observed, measured, and maybe even one day manipulated, something akin to, say, magnetism. In spite of all of his experiments though, he grew older and older without ever getting any answers, and this haunted him so much that he inadvertently slipped away into the land of Gaia. In Gaia, Dornkirk stumbled upon a small group of people, constantly beset by hunger and adversaries. Taking pity on them, he taught them how to use technology, which allowed them to develop and eventually evolve into Zybok, the preeminent power of Gaia. With an empire now at his disposal, Dornkirk seeks to use its resources to perfect the alteration of fate, and use it to create a happy, albeit artificial, fate for everyone. Even after the group escapes from Dornkirk's lair, the Emperor seems resolute in his goal, and continues to pursue this goal as he now seeks to keep Von and Hitomi separated, as it seems that when they are together, they have the power to alter fate. To keep them separated, he eventually gives the green light to alter fate and to set up Hitomi with Alan, and this for the time being does seem to be relatively effective. All the while, he is also seemingly unconcerned about the fate of his own followers, something which eventually pushes Folken to betray him. Even as the Alliance and Zybok soldiers start to cross blades, he's apathetic to whatever's going on the ground, as to him it isn't really important. It doesn't affect him at least, or at least until Folken and Hitomi teleport to him to stop his plans. To this end, Folken quickly kills Dornkirk even after Dornkirk's amazing reveal scene, although this upsets Hitomi, who ends up activating the fate alteration device. This does not work as intended though, and simply exacerbates the violence on the battlefield. Dornkirk comes back as a ghost to lament this, and even muses that conflict seems to be the inevitable state of humanity, an inevitable fate. As Von rushes to Hitomi though, and inadvertently ends the conflict, Dornkirk starts to fade away, after making one last musing on how maybe the power to change fate was in the human heart all along. Now Dornkirk is a fascinating character because of how little character he seems to have. That's not a knock on his writing or his place on the series, it's instead to say that the main antagonist seems literally inhuman. It seems as though he was written to have as little humanity as possible, good or bad. He instead comes off as more of an eldritch horror, or a sort of cosmic force that is so above the human mind or comprehension that it's detached from it in a sort of way. This even makes him more intimidating, as he comes off as a sort of force of nature, and not just some guy. While Dornkirk is human, and does have obviously human traits like his passions, in his case for science, possible empathy, he does seem to have a noble goal on the surface level, and his own search for meaning, in this case his search to define destiny, he has been so lost in his obsessive quest that his humanity seems to have atrophied. The great irony here is that the man who sought to control destiny itself for the benefit of others has doomed many in his cold quest to shape fate. He has become as cold and disconnected as the seemingly uncaring universe itself. In an even more ironic twist, all of this has caused his heart to shrivel up and atrophy, his emotions to be discarded, And these are the things which go on to prove to have the ability to alter fate, to motivate humans to surpass their boundaries and change destiny, to take hold of their own agency and make a better future. He has become a cold and uncaring cosmic force, the very thing he sought to control. Something that is seemingly ambivalent or unaware of the idea of morality, and instead simply affects others as a byproduct of its own natural processes. Dornkirk's morality, or lack thereof, makes him a fascinating villain, as while he isn't particularly likable, it's also hard to say he's malevolent. On the surface, you could even argue that he's kind of a good guy, as it's no doubt he helped the troubled people of Zybok prosper, and again, on the surface, it's hard to deny that the idea of trying to make everyone happy is good. And it does genuinely seem like he wants to do this, like he wants to end conflict. Again, though, that doesn't make him likable, and he's very inhuman. While he doesn't show himself to be malevolent, he also shows himself to be quite disconnected at best, and condescending and controlling at worst. He clearly doesn't value individual life, and the pursuit of his goal has killed and maimed many out of simple scientific curiosity and/or an overwhelming desire to control. Although his idea of controlling fate for the benefit of others does sound positive, it's inherently negative as it strips away the agency of others having control over their own destiny. By taking away the limited ability to alter fate from the individual, he in a sense is enslaving them to whatever fate he comes up with. Even if that fate is pleasant, it's an artificial one, as it is one that he has constructed for someone else, something that which they have not worked on, and something that they might not even really want. He seems to have lost his empathy, though, and to him, it doesn't really matter what others want, as to him, his quest is a net good that can justify and outweigh any methods used to accomplishment. Dornkirk's seemingly noble goal of ending war is cast against the appalling methods he uses to achieve this goal, which even include war itself. This sets him up as someone who has either completely severed themselves from any kind of empathetic morality in a misguided quest for the greater good at best, or a narcissist trying to play God at worst. We can even see this juxtaposition of his goals and his methods, of his caring intention with his complete lack of care for others, in his relationships with his two top subordinates, Folken and Dillandau. In a way, both are products of Dornkirk's goal, and both suffer for it in the long run, all of this in spite of their high titles and powers bestowed upon them. While Dornkirk did save Folken's life, and for at least a bit seemed to give him some kind of purpose, he also seemed to have done so simply out of practical means. It seems that Dornkirk saved Folken to follow his own goals. He didn't save Folken the man, so much as try and create Folken the task manager, Folken the executive, Folken the tool. Dillandau's lot is even worse, as Dornkirk did much more harm in this case, abducting a young Selena, and then through fate-altering experiments, creating an unstable, unhappy, and bloodthirsty warlord. At least in Folken's case, Dornkirk did literally save his life, while Dillandau is just sort of an unhappy byproduct of Dornkirk's failed experimentation. While both Folken and Dillandau seemingly have grand titles and powers, neither of them really asked for this fate, and it kind of brings them down in the end. Both of them have a great deal of agency stripped from them for the quote-unquote greater good, and neither of them seems happy with their place in the Empire near the end of the series. Folken obviously defects, and Dillandau obviously reverts back to Selena, although I think it goes without saying that Selena has a much greater chance of being happy than the troubled Dillandau persona. Both of them, Folken and Dillandau, serve as manifestations of the harm that trying to create someone else's fate can bring to that person. They serve as concrete examples of the idea that trying to dictate someone's fate for them, even if it's for the quote-unquote greater good, can have a good deal amount of harm to that person, as at the end of the day, individuals must be allowed to make their own decisions about who they want to be and what they want to do with their life. Dornkirk in the end is even sort of punished by these two for ignoring the idea of human agency. Dillandau's reversion to Selena proves that Dornkirk cannot sustainably physically manipulate fate, and Folken uses his own agency to kill Dornkirk himself. In the end, Dornkirk is trying to pave a road to heaven. However, he's only paving a road to hell, and doing so with his good intentions. The gap of morality between Dornkirk's goal and actions are also used to highlight the central theme of his character. He is the personification of the dangers of discounting the human ability to shape fate, and seeing fate as an unchangeable and unshakable force, if you will. For all of Dornkirk's posturing and grand actions and plans, he seems to have very little faith in humanity and human agency itself. He seeks to change fate itself because he seems to believe that humans in any way cannot, and that they lack any ability to shape their own destinies. He even comes back as a ghost to just kind of gloat about this. He figures that since he cannot directly affect fate from afar, even though he does a couple times, that humans, without as much technology as him or intelligence or whatever resources, cannot do so in any other way. His disconnect has gotten to the point where he discounts human ability and human feelings and emotions and empathy simply because of how alien and insignificant they seem to him. To him, fate is the be-all and end-all, and any human interactions which may have shaped it are simply part of the plan. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if he sought to change fate simply because he thought it was his destiny to do so. This is all incredibly ironic, as the man who near single-handedly turned a backwater into a superpower denies the human ability to affect its future and grow in any sort of way on its own. This man, who single-handedly built an empire, denies the ability of humanity to even change fate in the slightest. In a way, Dornkirk's entire character is a criticism of the idea that destiny is set in stone, as his search for destiny itself is nearly what single-handedly destroyed Gaia. He is a critique of the fatalistic fascination with the idea that fate is set in stone, and that therefore humans have no agency to shape it. Because in reality, humans can shape their own destiny, and that while we might not have control over everything, or even many things in our lives, we do have control over some things, and that which we can control can greatly shape the destinies of both ourselves and those around us. Again, ironically, in his quest to accumulate everything to change fate, Dornkirk lost his heart and his empathy, the two things that were proven to be able to change fate.